Hello, everyone. Welcome back to What's Up Wednesday. My name is Rachel, and I'm on the client success team here at Early Learning Ventures. And today I am joined by Aya Takemoto, who is the Director of Engagement with Epic. Welcome, Aya, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, Rachel. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, really excited. Thank you also to everybody who is joining us live today as well. If you have not heard of Early Learning Ventures before, we are a 501c3 nonprofit based out of Colorado, and our mission is to expand access to quality and affordable childcare. We focus our efforts on supporting childcare providers across the US and helping to lessen the administrative burden and give them some time back to do what you do best, which is serving children. And since we are live today, if you have any questions that come up while we're talking, please feel free to add them to the chat or the comments section. It's also fun if you want to just pop in and say hello, maybe let us know where you're watching from. That's always fun to see. I'm in Phoenix. I know you're in Colorado, so we could have viewers from all over, and it's fun to see where everyone's joining us from. All right, so let's get started. Aya, do you want to start us off by giving us a quick intro of yourself and telling us a little bit about your role at Epic?
Yes, absolutely. So again, my name is Aya. I am an engagement director with Epic. Epic stands for Executives Partnering to Invest in Children. We are also a nonprofit based in Colorado, but we work all over and work with organizational and business leaders to understand and address the childcare challenges facing their workforce and help them to find and implement the right solutions to support those working families on their teams.
Exciting. Thank you. I'm really excited to learn more. Let's go ahead. I know you've got some slides to share, so I'm going to adjust our screen here and pull those up. Just a second. There we go. Awesome. All right. How Epic, what it is, what kind of work you're doing in the childcare space.
Yeah, let's do it. So today I'll start, if I can get there we go. So again, we're executives partnering to invest in children. And we like to say that we enable the business community to build the workforce of tomorrow, those beautiful smiling children, while supporting the workforce of today, those really hardworking, working parenting families.
I
And
love
so
that.
we do that through 4 focus areas, and I'll go over each of them really quickly, but definitely feel free to pop in any questions into the chat, or I'll pop my email in there later too if you have any questions. But our first focus area is community innovation and investment. So that's really like whole community technical assistance. We have stakeholder groups with business leaders, community partners, government agency, the childcare providers in those communities, to really understand and assess the needs of that community, and then put in solutions that look at the infrastructure needs, the capital and upstart funding needs, the workforce needs, and to take a look at that whole set of needs to build out sustainable childcare services for those communities. So a real community-minded effort there. The other set of work we do, or the second set of work we do, is on workplace support. So we will do a similar set of work, but one-on-one with businesses and with organizational leaders who are really trying to attract and retain the best talent for their teams and build environments that enable those families and children to thrive. So we work directly with one-on-one with those leaders. And then because of our deep connections in community and our deep connections with these organizations, we are then building up awareness and thought leadership amongst those community and business leaders and helping them to really understand the importance of early care and education and activate them to continue to take action and advocate on behalf of children and families. And then the last pillar here on the right is around policy and advocacy. So because we're building awareness and thought leadership amongst these community leaders, we like to elevate them and encourage them and have them advocate on our behalf in legislative sessions as well.
Awesome. Thank you. You said in the beginning, I know you guys are based out of Colorado, but is it any state that you're working in? So nationwide?
Yeah, we like to say that we're born and raised in Colorado, but we have been able to join our I don't know, our teenage years maybe, as we expand our reach a little bit into a few other states as well. We're not national yet, but we are looking at a number of new states and seeing the types of engagement that folks are looking for.
Great, thank you. So, what kinds of opportunities do you see for engaging business leaders in conversations about childcare? And
I
are
know.
there any strategies you've found that really help make those conversations successful?
It's such a good question. It does vary a little bit based on the organization, what their priorities and goals are, and things like that. But I'll share two places that we like to start that I think are good starting places for most organizations. And the first one is about how childcare is a workforce and an economic issue. For so long, we've thought about childcare as a family issue, as a personal issue, right? But it is really a driving force in our workforce and in our economy. So you'll see here some big numbers on the far left. You'll see 122 billion. That is the estimated annual loss in the American economy across our country due to workforce challenges around childcare. That 122 billion is broken up into three buckets. So you'll see the first one is the 23 billion. That's the annual burden on businesses. Those businesses are losing revenue due to lost productivity when their workforce is unable to be present at work or be engaged at work, or when they leave their roles because of childcare challenges, then they lose revenue from that. And then the businesses also have additional hiring costs, right? They have to replace and train a new employee to be as effective as that last employee. And so there's an annual loss on the businesses for when there's insufficient childcare. The second bucket, that 21 billion, looks at the average annual taxpayer loss. When you have working parents who are working less, that means they're earning less and they're consuming less in their communities, and that can have a real impact on the tax economy here. And then in the last bucket, you have 78 billion. That's the average annual loss in earnings and time for our working parents. This looks at about 14 million working parents across the country. And when you think about if they're not able to work, if they're not able to work one day, or if they're taking a hiatus from work or whatever that might be, but the loss in earnings for working families due to childcare challenges is a big burden on that set of workforce. And so in total, 122 billion. So these numbers can be very shocking to business leaders and really helps to contextualize in their thinking about their workforces and the families that they're supporting on their workforce as well.
Yeah,
And
wow,
then,
it is. Sorry to interrupt you,
no,
but it is just crazy to see those numbers. I love to see the data like that, but wow.
there's big numbers, and these ones are at the national level, but the numbers come from an organization called Ready Nation, and there are a number of orgs out there who will also sort of break this out by state as well, if folks are interested in looking at this sort of breakdown or the economic impacts in their individual states as well.
Okay.
The other set of information that we like to share with most organizations is about the business case. We like to talk, a lot of business leaders like to talk in terms of their ROI and their bottom line. And so this really incredible report came out, a little less than a year ago. It was put together by BCG Consulting and then an organization called Moms First. And they did a report across a few organizations who have invested in childcare and looking at the return on that investment in childcare. And you'll see that they saw up to a 425% return on that investment. And that investment, it comes in a few different forms. And so would love to just kind of talk through what that looks like. The first one you'll see at the top is about productivity and presence. So again, if the working parents have reliable childcare that they don't have to worry about, then that means that they can show up to work more present, more engaged, more productive. And so they see a return on the boost of productivity because they have those needs taken care of. On the left, you see recruitment and retention is a big one. The stat here, 90% of employers say that childcare benefits boost their ability to find great talent and retain that talent just as much as any other benefit, like PTO days or health insurance. So it's a huge win in the recruitment and retention strategy for an employer. At the bottom, you see about job satisfaction, right? Families are more happy to be at work. Those employees are happier to be there because they have reliable care and they have the support of their organization. And I think the important point to make here is that working families feel supported, and there's no reduction in the happiness levels of non-parenting employees either, right? When you lift all boats, everyone rises, right? And then on the far right, you see about career progression. So the stat here, 56% of part-time or non-working parents would go back to work full-time if they had access to quality childcare at a reasonable cost. So it's investing in the development and progression of our workforce and encouraging more workforce to come back to work as well. So really big returns for those employers who invest in these benefits and childcare solutions for their employees. So that's where we like to start. Sometimes it veers in a slightly different direction, again, depending on the goals and priorities of the organization, but we think those are two good places to start in conversations with business and organizational leaders.
Yeah, wow, that is amazing. It does look like there's some successful strategies there to help business leaders understand these benefits of offering childcare. What are some of the barriers that they may still be facing?
Yeah, I think that's the best. It's a great question. Even if you have an employer who is bought in by the ROI, who believes in sort of the economic benefits of investing in their workforce, there are still some barriers around it. And the I think about it in two buckets. The one is about cost. There is this perception that implementing childcare benefits is really, really expensive, and that can just be intimidating, right? It can be a hard hurdle to overcome. But that cost concern, it's looped into this overall, the overall second bucket of a lack of knowledge. Most leaders, they simply just don't know where to start. Childcare it's nuanced, it's complex, and it can be really overwhelming to understand all that's needed to invest in this area. So they 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 don't quite know where to start to understand what their employees need, what the community needs, what questions do they even ask to figure those things out? And if they're able to figure those things out, then okay, what are their options? And how do you choose the right one? What's the right one for their employees in their community? And then let's say they think, oh, maybe this is a good option for me, but how do I do it? How do I staff it? Do I need someone from legal? Do I need someone from HR? Like, what are the first steps that those people have to take to even start to implement a childcare solution? And so we have a lot of leaders out there who know that it's an issue and want to take some sort of action, but just need a little bit of guidance on how to make informed decisions and how to make sure they're really meeting the needs of their employees and their communities.
Yeah, wow. So I think this is where the Employer Child Care Navigator tool comes in. Can you explain that to us and how it can serve to mitigate some of these barriers?
Yeah, I love it. So we love to break down some of those barriers for employers, and we just launched a brand new tool called the Employer Child Care Navigator. And the idea here, the mission is that, there are a lot of organizations here that have implemented childcare solutions, but most often they are big Fortune 500 companies. They've got a lot of money, they've got big HR teams, they have a lot of capacity and time to navigate and understand this sort of complex new environment for them. And we wanted to ensure that this information was available to everyone, not just those big organizations, but anyone who wanted to support their workforce with childcare solutions. So the Employer Child Care Navigator makes it easier for any organization, any business leader to start to understand what childcare solutions make sense for their workforce, and what steps they need to take, and who in their community they might be able to work with to help them reach those goals and answer their questions and implement the solution to meet their needs. Rachel, I'll take you through a couple of slides here to just kind of break it down. But we
Yeah,
talked
thank you.
how one of the biggest challenges is they don't know where to start. Like, what are their options? So we actually have a questionnaire. Who doesn't like to take a quiz? It's just a 3-minute questionnaire that asks a leader for just a couple of questions to start to understand the profile of their business. So we'll ask them things like, how many staff members do you have? Are they remote? Are they hybrid? Do they have, are you a traditional sort of Monday through Friday 9 to 5 organization, or do you have shift workers? And so you have unusual times. Those are all really important things to consider when you think about what families need around childcare. So we have a questionnaire that they take that will elevate some potential right fit solutions for them. And so they'll receive their questionnaire results. And then when they find the solutions they want to explore, then we help to outline, well, so what do you need to consider when implementing? So this screenshot here shows about a childcare partnership. You might invest into your local childcare operators in your community to meet the needs of your workforce. So how do you look at the childcare providers in your community? What are the things you should look for? What are the sort of like legal or compliance things you should be thinking about? And so we really start to break down what those steps are, and they can understand it at a high level and then bring in their team as needed here. And then we also have a number of tools that they can use to really understand the needs of their employees. So we provide guidance on how to do an employee needs assessment and how to start collecting data about their employees just from the HR data that they probably already have. So that's how we help them know where to start. And then we talked about how cost is a big hurdle as well. So we try to assuage those anxieties by just providing some transparent information about it. And so the Employer Child Care Navigator provides about 7 different kinds of childcare solutions that an employer could consider. And of course, one of those solutions would be establishing a new childcare facility on or near the work site, right? But it goes down the line too to other things that they can put into place to start to meet the needs of their employees. And then we share just some high level understanding of what that investment might look like across the solutions, but also what type of impact we expect it to have on their employees. So it's a balance of both. This might be more expensive, but it will likely have a really high impact as well. And then the tool also offers some guidance on how to start to calculate that ROI and what the finances are going to look like for their organization as they think about going down this path. And then the last thing that we do, I mentioned, well, there are a number of other things, but the last kind of core thing that the tool does is to connect them with partners. So we have a vendor directory where an employer can go and filter by the type of childcare solution they would like to implement or explore. And then it elevates for them organizations in their community or across the country, sort of depending on what they're looking for, that can help them meet those needs and help implement those solutions. So we elevate those partners for them. And Rachel, we're going to get to this later, but a quick plug to our audience and our listeners that if you're interested in joining the vendor directory, we would love to have you, and we'll go through that in a little bit more in depth later on as well.
This is so great to see how we talked about all of the barriers and how daunting it can seem as a business leader, but this Employer Child Care Navigator really just breaks it down and simplifies it. I just love to see that. And I love that there's also multiple options as well to find the best fit.
Yep. It's not a one size fits all thing. We want to help support working families, and there are a variety of different ways to do it.
Yeah, I'm gonna put the link in the comments here, but we also have a comment just saying, wow, this is amazing, such great information.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that.
Yeah, exciting. Okay, so can you share a couple of real life examples with us where childcare providers have successfully partnered with local employers? What did this collaboration look like?
Yeah, I love it. I'll share 2 examples. The first one is the establishment of a new on-site childcare center. But like I said, this isn't the only way to do things, but it is really exciting when you're able to do something like this. So this was a partnership between a local childcare provider here in Colorado, actually, with a hospital based in Grand Junction. Grand Junction is a pretty big town, but it's based in a pretty rural part of the state. So the hospital was having a really hard time attracting and retaining top talent to their hospital. They were hearing about it from current and prospective employees that childcare was a major hurdle for them. In their community, they were seeing about a countywide shortfall of 4,000 childcare slots, which I'm sure our listeners today, maybe that number resonates with you, but they were seeing a really high need for more childcare. And so this was actually an organization that we worked with, that Epic worked with. So we helped support them on some of their financial modeling, provided some strategic advice around it, and helped them to develop plans to build an on-site childcare facility. As part of that, we supported them to put out an RFP to identify a childcare provider who could run and manage that center, right? The hospital is a hospital. They were not in the business of childcare, but wanted to find a really strong childcare partner who could come in and run this center. And so Adventure Academy opened up just about a year and a half ago, September 2023. They created 100 new childcare slots in the community. They take infants all the way up through preschoolers, and it prioritizes hospital employees. So the nurses, the front desk staff, everybody at the hospital who needs childcare. It prioritizes those hospital employees, but the remaining any remaining spots that are available at the center is open to the community as well. It's run by this wonderful woman who started. I think she just had one childcare center to start. She was selected as the operator for Adventure Academy that opened in 2023, and since then she has actually entered into a number of other agreements with employers in the region, which is just so exciting. Both that people are motivated by this model, and that we've been really able to elevate this childcare provider in a local spot here in Colorado.
That is so exciting. Sorry,
It,
I just love to see that as an example, and we're familiar with Adventure Academy as well, so it's great. We've seen the impact, just doing great things in the community.
They do such wonderful work. It's true. It's really inspiring to me as well.
Yeah.
The other model I'll share is just about is not about establishing a new center, but a little more around sort of investing into the existing infrastructure of the childcare community. So in this example, there is a manufacturing plant. It was a plastics manufacturing plant based in rural Pennsylvania, and their CEO was finding that childcare was one of the biggest challenges to her employees, making it either at all to their shift or making it on time to their shift. And when a manufacturing plant has challenges with that, it takes an entire machine offline, which halts the entire production line. So for the amount of any hour that one single machine is offline because an employee is late or can't make it that day, it costs the company thousands of dollars per hour that the machine is offline. So when she was finding that childcare was an issue to this, she said, "We got to figure this out. Do they need a childcare center at the plant? Is that what they need?" She wasn't sure.
Yeah.
So ran a needs assessment, and she saw actually that the most dominant request from her staff was access to existing childcare across town. Her employees wanted the flexibility in their schedules, and that would align to their family routines. So maybe they would drop the child off in the morning, but they wanted either a spouse or a grandmother to be able to pick up. And because of that, the sort of flexibility in locations was really important to her staff members. So she identified a local childcare provider in her community. This provider actually operated multiple locations, so fit the need for that flexibility. And they worked together to, identify what's really important to both organizations, and how can they make this work to meet the needs of her workforce. And so now they have an arrangement where the childcare provider is able to hold slots for employees, and they open early to meet the manufacturing plant's shift start time. Shifts start at 7, so the center opens at 6. So those parents can get there, can drop their kids off, can get to their shift on time, can kind of get their head in the game, and then start their shift at 7. The partnership in this model is funded both by the employer, and they also worked together to apply for grants, and so they have some philanthropic funding to support this as well.
Wow. That is amazing. I love the two different examples there because very different, seeing the on-site and then this model of having the flexibility, like you said, so parents can choose, and that's awesome.
Yeah, it's super fun. I love both of them so much. There's pros and cons and about both, and in the
Yeah.
end the goal is to support working families, and when you find that it's the best for your workforce or your community, it we just want that solution to meet the needs there. So lots of great ways to do it.
Yeah, that was a great point that you made there, is that she did an assessment with her employees to find out what would work best for them and their needs.
Because she wondered, she thought, oh my gosh, do we need to establish are we building a new center here? That's sort of where her head went. And then she slowed herself down and said, let's do a needs assessment and really understand what folks need.
That's really cool. Okay, so we would love to know, for providers who are interested in joining the Employer Child Care Navigator, what are the steps to get started and what should they know about becoming a vendor?
Yeah, I love it. Look at that, everyone. So the URL is in the chat. It's employerchildcarenavigator.org. And in the menu of that website, you'll see there's a vendor directory. That's where you'll see all of the current list of vendors there. And then if you're interested in joining, you scroll down to the bottom of that and click on the little yellow button that says Start Form. And then I'll actually just walk you through the form. And if you have questions about it, we can talk through it. But essentially at the very top of the form, it's a very simple form. But at the very top, you'll fill out your organizational information, the name, and how folks can find your information on a website and how they can get in touch with you. And then you'll put in which service you're able to provide. So are you providing on-site or near-site care? Can you engage in a child care partnership? Just like those two examples that we stated. At the top of that page, I circled it here, is our vendor criteria. So some of the things that we look for in those partners that can support employers. And I'll talk through that a little bit here. But essentially for on-site or near-site care, if you feel like you are a provider or a vendor who can support an employer to do this, we have two ways of thinking about it. One is that you might be a vendor who you operate a child care center and you do it in partnership. You built it in partnership with an employer, and that the aim of that center is to serve the employees of that business. The second vendor criteria around on or near site care is that you might be a provider or a partner that supports a leader with sort of evaluating the needs and developing and understanding what an on or near site childcare center might actually look like. So that strategy for developing or establishing a new center. And then childcare partnership, I chose these two solutions because it felt like the best fit for this audience, but definitely take a look at the other criteria if you feel like your organization or an organization that fits a different set. Again, there are 7 different solutions on the vendor or on the childcare navigator. But for childcare partnership, we talk about the first one is, again, a vendor operates a childcare center. So you're a childcare operator and you partner directly with employers in your community to secure childcare spaces at your center for employees of that business. That partnership could include not just holding spaces, but the employer could consider supporting tuition discounts for their employees, or they might wonder about sort of creating custom tuition schedules for their workforce, things like that. But a partnership that's focused on ensuring accessibility and availability of childcare for the employee's workforce. I'm sorry, the employer's workforce. And then the second part of childcare partnership, again, is a little bit more around strategy building with an employer. So maybe you're someone who can support an employer to understand what a childcare partnership might look like, what that strategy might look like, and you might help to broker those partnerships between childcare operators in the community and the operator itself. Those are the two that we'll touch on today. But if you have any questions, I will pop my email in the chat here in a little bit too. So once you've selected your solutions, then you tell us what state you're in, and you provide a description, a quick 174 characters that just speaks to the employer and tells them what you do, what services you can provide for them, and helps them to understand why they might reach out to you and what support you can provide for them. And then the last question is around experience or readiness to work with an employer. So we do ask if employer partnerships are a core part of the way an organization operates. So like, do you already have employer partnerships, or have you already worked quite a bit with employers in your community? And I really want to highlight here that it's okay if the answer is no. We want to ask the question because, of course, this is the Employer Child Care Navigator. We want to make this tool easy for employers, but it's okay as a vendor. It is okay if you haven't done it before. And I'll talk through a couple of things you might consider if you haven't done it before, but you're interested and you want to think about how to get there. So if you've never partnered with an employer before, think about, are you open to that model? Are you open to a model that supports the businesses in your community? Do you have the staff, or can you develop the staff and the capacity to manage those relationships, right? You'll have a new set of communications coming in and out, and needs that might be coming in, and conversations that you'll have to have with business leaders. So do you have the staff or the capacity to manage those relationships and those conversations? Do you have something that you can share with a potential partner that identifies how you can support them? Is it a page on your website? Is it a flyer? Is it just, a Word document with a few bullet points? Whatever it is, want to make sure that you're thinking about what this means for you and for them. And with that in mind, think what is the benefit to the employers that you might be able to offer? What flexibility might you be able to offer? And what will that support you to do if you had that support from employers? So just to put a little bit of thought into your mind, and if that makes sense for you and the way you operate. The last thing I'll mention is just when you join the vendor directory, it is currently only filtered by state. So we do just want to say, you should feel ready to receive inquiries from employers across your state. It doesn't mean that you have to work with them. But if you're in Colorado and they filter by Colorado, but you're way on the other side of the Rocky Mountains or whatever, just be ready to receive inquiries, and you can say no, but just something we like to flag for folks.
Good. I think that's this is just awesome to see. I think this is so great how you guys, the work you're doing to break it down and simplify this process for business leaders and for providers. I also wanted to add on one of your bullet points there for the childcare provider to provide some information about their business, or to have a flyer, or make sure that your website is up to date with information about your services and your offerings. We do offer office hours support on our team. So if you are a provider that is interested in being a vendor and you maybe need some help with that language for your business, we would be happy to help. You can reach us at our client support email, and we could meet with you just to brainstorm some ideas.
I love that. I didn't know that you all did that. Everyone here should take advantage of that. That sounds great.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Aya. You have shared so much information with us today, and I hope that everybody watching, business leaders, childcare providers, families, it got those gears turning, and got lots of links in the description of this video to check out to learn more. Yeah, thank you. Do you have anything else to add?
No, I was just going to say thanks for joining. Please visit, employerchildcarenavigator.org. Share it out with your networks. Help spread the word. We're here to support. If, as you're sharing it out, there's any feedback, I would love to hear it. And actually, Rachel, I am not able to access the chat. I'm just realizing, but will you pop in? Feel free to pop in my email. I'm happy to take any questions or what have you to help make sure folks have the information that they need. And then please join as a vendor. We would love to have you. And and are happy to go back and forth with you on whatever support you need to make sure your services are available to employers.
Great. Thank you so much, Aya. Yes, I will add your email to the comments to make sure anyone can reach out with any follow-up questions.
Awesome.
Thank
Thanks.
you for joining us. Yeah, thank you everyone for watching live, and we will see you next time.
Happy
Bye.
Wednesday.